Good afternoon, all. I've got on the line David Armstrong, who's Director in Sydney. I've got James Morris, who's Director across Morris Accounting in Queensland. I introduced both of you to Stephen and George from MYOB. We are recording the session for those directors who are able to join us. They'll be able to view the session and an update and time. And I'll hand over to you guys to take away.
David and James, hello. Hi James, good talking to you the other day. Thanks for this opportunity to show you the software. We normally, as I've said to a few people within the doors, we normally would take upwards of 3 hours to run through a walkthrough of everything in the suite. And we typically go from a job coming in the door, all the data being captured, all the processing to the very end, to the feeing, all the compliance work, tax returns. That would get you a sense for the efficiency in the software. But today we're just going to some key areas that we can fit in within the time frames.
I'll get cracking. So with my experiences, I've worked for MYOB for about 7 years. Prior to that, I worked for Banklink, and before that, I worked in an accounting firm on the Gold Coast, which is now known as Cordon Advisory. So my experience is in accounting, also with a degree, but I also worked with Handysoft, which was my platform at that time. So that combined with, I guess, learning about technology at MYOB has probably put me in a good position to talk you through what I see as the biggest things that will change this firm and the way in which you process your work, but also want to talk through how it'll impact the experience that the software can provide to your end users or clients. And what it looks like for our accounting firms that are successfully using MYOB Accountants Enterprise. I understand that some people have an experience with our software in the past. Hopefully some of the things I showed today will have changed a little bit or even evolved to become even more efficient. But let's just start with this first window. What's really good about this particular solution is that everything's been designed to be a workflow or a digital process tool. So what that means is, rather than having multiple windows or using different applications to, I guess, pull together what might look like manual workflows, our solution is basically digitize those processes so that everything's displayed to you in front of one single view, which we refer to as dashboards throughout our software. So what I'm looking at right now is just an example of what the dashboards could be for your practice or for your staff. Throughout the software, we have 5 different modules. So we start with practice management, which is your timesheets, your job flow, and all of your CRM capabilities built into the software. We have a document management solution, which is where we house all of your storage. We also look at how we electronically source, send and receive documents with your clients through our own secure portal. And then we have our compliance tools, which are essentially built to automate your workflow processes all the way from the SME file, whether your client chooses to use Xero, QuickBooks, MYOB, right through to producing the financial statements and integrating into the tax returns. Our compliance tools, in my mind, and obviously I'm biased, are the quickest in the market. So we have time savings across our client base from 20 to 50%. Now, every firm is a little bit different. Our methodology is to provide you with a single consistent workflow, which allows you to basically have an accountant's view of the bookkeeping world, but it means that you can bring in things that actually allow you to go through, reconcile, attach source documents, and do it in a way that's been built for an accounting practice. My key call out here is that our solution is all encompassing. So what that means for you is we provide an end-to-end solution, and we don't look to many third parties to, what I put in my inverted commas, complete the suite. So because we have a core product suite and a core product suite across your SME clients and practice internally, we're able to basically join the dots in a much more of a seamless way. And that means you can get the work processed in a much more efficient manner.
Can I just jump in there? So when Steve says we have a solution, we own it. So there are other providers that have a solution. We own all the products, which means we have control and being able to modify any and all components in all those disciplines so that the thing flows efficiently. And we get that efficiency. We see it in the results in our accounting practices. So we own the document management, we own the workflow, we own the compliance suites, we own the asset management, the insolvency software, the client portal, all of that is ours. And then we open up to the outside world as well for third-party extras. So we integrate with Xplan, we integrate with
Class Super,
we integrate with
Microsoft Dynamics, we integrate with MailChimp, whatever you want to use from a third-party perspective to potentially look at going external to your clients and doing mail runs. HubSpot we can integrate with you, anything you'd like to. So we have the ability to do this through our third-party add-ons. Now, if we don't have it, we also have expertise in the field that can provide you with an integration suite of providers who will go through and look to map through the SQL tables into those third-party providers. So if people say we can't do it, it's probably because they haven't checked.
Or they don't know. So James, I did check. We had a brief conversation. Castaway we integrate with, and there was another piece of software you mentioned. I did check. I wrote to them directly, and we can integrate with them as well.
Cashflow storage.
Cashflow storage. Yeah. So it's important to just say that we own all of this application, because you're buying from one supplier and you're buying once. You're not planning to change practice management software. We have suppliers, competitors in the marketplace now that are on their third practice management suite. So that's not good for the practices that invested in the first and the second. And that's, you know, I can name here, that's Xero in fact, and they won't deny that, you know, that pluggability and third-party applications is important with the extras, with the castaways, with all the, with Xplan, with any of that software. That's fine. We need to open up to the outside world with Microsoft Office, but the interior suite is important that we own that, because you don't want to be changing software as a practice as they change software. Okay. So sorry, I'll let you get back.
No, that's all good. So what I just want to highlight in this particular dashboard here.
I call it a homepage.
Homepage, yeah, it's fine.
This
basically just gives you the ability to tie together what we call our core modules. Because it's a fully integrated suite, all of the workflows are then drawn into a single space. So when we install and implement this particular application, what we'll do is we'll work through each of the accounting practices to find out the roles and responsibilities of your team members. And then we will basically customize this solution to suit the role and responsibility. So if you're a support team member and you're in charge of pushing out the mail or the portal or the emails, you'll have a dashboard that's created so that you can see all inbound and all outbound emails. If you're in charge and you're a manager of a team looking after the accounting WIP, you'll have a dashboard that shows all the jobs in one single view, which I'll show you in just a moment. That'll give you basically a captured frame of your forecasted revenue, jobs that are at risk. So everything inside of our system is designed based on the tasks that you perform, but they're electronically transformed into our modules so that you can see what's happening from one glance.
So can I just, you might cover this, but if you can see on your screen now, you see top 10 WIP, top 10 debtors, top 10 expenses. The old school way is you run a WIP report, an age WIP report, and see what that is. Or wouldn't it be nice if you could just have that report live and sitting there, because that's the window you want. And so that's what you've got there. Those windows, there's 3 at the top and 2 at the bottom, and then a 4th one along the length. That's a default page, and you can have 4 or 5 of those default pages. When you log in, your home page loads up, and that's one of the home pages. You can expand any one of them to see the whole top 10 WIP, but if your world is around monitoring those particular figures, that's your first page, and it can sit there in addition to any other work you do.
Absolutely. So I'll just dive a little bit deeper here. So from a practice management perspective, we also have the ability to draw out numbers based on teams or offices, so you can get a really good view of what's actually happening across the fields. You then have further definitions or fields you can mine to really deep dive into who's doing what, where the lockup days are, where potential debtor days might be, and everything is then secured into that one single database. So from your practice perspective, did you prefer to have one database and it divided up by location, or multiple databases divided up by separate locations? It's up to you what you choose to go ahead with. But if I just give you an example here, because all the data lies underneath this system, and we've basically brought it to the top by the way of a SQL interface, You can slice and dice information as you please, however you like. So if I want to look at different companies, because we can have multiple billing entities, so each of the offices might have their own ABN number, or you want to divide it by particular partners, I can click OK on these particular definitions, and it will slice and dice and find the relevant information for those particular team members, offices, or even as a whole across the whole Madora's financial group. So really easy to get around the information. As I mentioned, these home pages or dashboards are all designed to be around the particular workflows of the team and team members that are operating. Now, I'm just going to take you through fairly quickly now, I guess, the way in which our software would work on a day-to-day basis for your accounting practice. Typically, as your work comes into the office, everything is stored in a centralized system. So some Handysoft firms will use the JobFlow tool. Some Handysoft practices will use Excel. Both of those tools have their pros and their cons. The fabulous thing about this particular piece of software is that everything's fully integrated. So from your client's ID, we can start to create jobs and tasks for team members, and we can allocate and look at budgets, forecasted cash flow, turnaround times, lockups, where jobs are held up if they're out for review in one single window. This is fully customizable to what the view you would like to see. So for example, if you're a person who needs to see dates and times as opposed to icons, we can literally flick a switch and the view is then interchangeable based on what is your preference. This particular screen here can also have calculated fields. So if you wanted to see the revenue for a particular team member coming through between now and June, I can actually forecast the cash flow for teams, individuals, offices, just using the screen alone. Most of the firms who have transferred across from Excel or Handysoft love this tool because it centralizes what they had before, which was a decoupled workflow process. So right now I'm looking at all jobs. Like I said before, everything in our system is SQL interface, so you can literally drag and drop whatever you like. Right now I'm looking at all jobs and who they're assigned to. If I was an individual team member, I might only have the view that shows me how to look at my jobs only. Any questions so far? Okay, I'll power on. So once the job comes into the office, our support team or receptionist will add the job in. From adding a job in all the way through, every single task is wizard driven. So what that means is when you take on our software, whilst we'll take you through and do a hand-holding experience to make sure you get all of the updates and all the training you require, every single task you do will have a wizard in the background, which makes it really, really easy to implement. The software is intuitive, so new team members are onboarded, it's easy to follow through. Once the job is brought into the office and assigned to a particular staff member, I can then jump through into my client's area. So this particular space is where we house all the information that's relevant to your clients that form part of, I guess, our CRM capability, which really amplifies or opens up the opportunity for marketing through our software. We have firms today who will pull up data across the full practice suite, including tax return data, including metadata from the document management tool, and that allows them to go and prospect or cross-sell into clients they haven't yet tapped into for other revenue streams. So everything's fully built into this particular system. I've got a range of tabs here that go across the screen. Because we have limited time, I'm not going to go through every single thing, but in essence, as opposed to in Handysoft, jumping into every single module and then finding the client name, everything here is in one single screen for that particular client. So that means less time wastage jumping between different windows, but it also means that all the data is coming from one single database. What's cool about that? If one of your team members choose to change an address or a phone number, often in some of these older systems, you're going to go and rekey data across multiple windows or multiple interfaces. Inside of our system, everything's fully integrated. So if I change an address on the company in the tax return, for example, that data will flow through automatically all the way through to our ASIC tool, which will pre-populate and generate a Form 484 for you. So that data and having one single hub is really important to accounting practices who want to exploit or want to amplify the opportunities that are in their marketing areas. What I wanted to touch on next was, as the accounting work has been now allocated to a particular staff member through our JobFlow tool, all of our accounting processes come through one single window. So what that means is no matter what your clients choose to use, whether it's Xero, QuickBooks or MYOB, once that data is brought into your office, we seamlessly integrate that petite piece of software with the transactional details into what we call our client accounting world. So most of the firms that use Handy will use Handy Ledger. If any of the firms who use Reckon, they'll use XPA. Essentially, this is the replacement to that product. The key issues with those particular software providers is that all of the data is typically manipulated and altered, rekeyed and rekeyed again into your ledger and workpaper tools. In our software, everything is fully integrated so that when you bring the data directly from the client's file into MYOB client accounting, there is no rekeying at all. The efficiency gains here are significant, but I'll give you an example here of what it looks like. So if your clients were using MYOB data file, they simply link straight through to that particular client file in the cloud or on the desktop. If the client's using Xero or QuickBooks, you would simply export a simple CSV file and then import the data the exact same way I'm looking at right now. One of the key differences that your team will need to get across, and this is where your efficiency drives even further, is that in our new world of client accounting, this is where we change the game. Essentially, this brings together multiple workflows into one single screen. Now, I'll give you a moment just to look at this particular screen because it seems busy, but as you start to familiarize yourself with the client account codes, the account description, the final balance column, last period and variance, what you'll start to see is that this is the makeup of the client's file. So many accounting firms spend and waste too much time getting spreadsheets, rekeying data between work papers and their journal entries, and then producing profit and loss statements. This system draws all of those disparate workflows into one single accounting lens of that bookkeeping world. So essentially what I'm on the screen right now is my client's file with their up-to-date balances and my accounting process wrapped into a single area. So what I do is, as I go through and look at the geography of what's on the screen, you can see here I have red flags and I have some status indicators. We're the only provider in the marketplace that actually gives the accountants a pre-review checklist prior to starting the work. So what does that mean for you? No more dodgy bank reconciliations, no more corrupt GST recs, no more out of balance or variance Div 7A loans. Everything inside this particular tool will bring together your work papers, your source documents, your client's transaction and file and balances into one single screen, and it will digitally compile it into one single work paper for you to produce and to put through to your statutory reports and your tax returns. So as an example here, I brought through the client's file for the particular year. As I scroll down the screen, I can see there's variances inside of these working papers that do not match up to what my client balance is. So effectively, as I mentioned before, this system will provide a pre-review checklist for your team to look at before producing and sending through for review. So I'll give you an example of a working paper so you can see how this comes together. All of our solutions have simple, easy, quick access codes. So if I wanted to open up a working paper, I simply click the account, add work paper, and I have a drop-down list of about 87 standard templates that are sent out to all of our accounting practices. And what this means for your business is that you have a single accounting process with the same working papers across every single office. This opens up opportunities for you to share work between offices as one becomes busy, one becomes slower. It also means that from a review perspective, your firm has a consistent professional set of working papers that is in line with what your body's requirements are. So my example here that I have today is a prepayments work paper, and you can see here there's a red flag. So what this means to the accountant is that prior to putting through the working papers for a review and completing the job, I consider the balance on the work screen compared to my work paper is different. I simply double click, and as we go into this particular application, you'll notice that inside of here looks and feels like an Excel spreadsheet, but it's not. The key ingredient here is that we want your team members to be able to take on the software easily. So what we've done is design these systems to be a look and feel to what's familiar, but it has some built-in smarts. So the first smart that I just showed you was the fact that it can look at a balance inside a working paper and compare that to the trial balance, i.e. it picks up a variance for you. In this second system here, it's brought through for me balances and even formulas so that I can even start to pre-record some of the data that's been inputted to make sure it's correct. Now, this particular screen I can see is a closing balance of 3.5K. My value per the trial balance was $4,000. Hence, there's a red flag and a variance of $400. So this is the only system in the marketplace that actually goes through and starts to provide some of the AI around accounting journals and also coaches your team into making sure they've checked and reviewed all the balances, that there's no significant variances, and that they've included the standard working papers per your process. Inside our working paper, we also include the ability to add a journal into your file. So I want you to picture this for your Handysoft firms or for your Reckon APS firms. If I'm a team member of yours, my first job is to key the data from QuickBooks, Xero, or MYOB into your Handy Ledger or XVA. The second job is then to go through and review all of last year's balances and see for any material differences. In this system, we've already crossed out both of those particular processes. The next component is I need to go through and substantiate balances, and I also need to journalize any variances. So inside of our working paper, I can take up the journal entry straight away, and you'll notice that it's already done half the equation for me. Once I add that journal and I put it to the account it needs to correspond to, I click add, it records the journal, and you'll notice that the red flag on the screen now disappears. So because the working papers are integrated to your trial balance, I have the ability to bring through the work in a much more of an accurate and efficient manner than you can through your Excel spreadsheets, your Handy Ledger, and your Reckon XVA ledgers. I'll hit save here and OK, and you notice that the red flag has disappeared. Because the system's fully integrated the whole way through, once I finalize the working papers, I can then push these journals and worksheets through for review, and the exact same window is used by your managers and partners to go through and complete those reviews. Because we have an integrated system, we can also integrate documents directly into the trial balance and working papers. And as you probably noticed before in my prepayments worksheet, as I scroll down, I have all these little blue togs. So what these are, is these are little additions to the working paper to substantiate the balance. So if I wanted to open or see one of these particular links, I'll literally click on it, click view document, and because it's a fully electronic workflow, that document is artificially stable to either the work paper or my trial balance view. I'm just going to pause for a moment because there's a few things I've shown you through here so far. Are there any questions from the Gold Coast in the room here? James?
No, I don't think we've got any questions at the moment.
Okay, no problems at all. So my next step here is I want to press forward and show the reporting area. George, anything you wanted to discuss before I move on?
If you just go back to that prior screen. I just want to, first of all, say all this data is live. So all the reporting, no matter what you go into, and we'll go in later to that home page, all those nice diagrams that were there. If you hover over the top, you get figures showing, and those figures you can double click and it draws you straight into the transactions. So we might show that later if we get a chance.
Sure.
You can see all the little Ds. That's all the supporting documentation. Now that isn't a file attached to that point. That file exists just once in document management. It's a link to that file. These work papers here all roll forward. So year on year, all the supporting documentation is attached to the work paper. And are you able quickly go to the intercompany loans work paper as an example?
Yep, absolutely, okay.
And just talk briefly to that before we jump to the next part.
Yeah, absolutely, go through. You're good to go.
Okay, do you want to just...
Yep, so what George is referring to here is our working papers across all the entities that we have are able to basically reconcile against separate entities. So when you think about groups of clients that you might have, where there might be a partnership or a trust or a company, and they're related in some format, through our system, we can actually go through and we can reconcile those amounts against the account codes in those respective ledgers. So what that means is there's no more messy spreadsheets. There's no more missing out on taking up particular values. This system, because it's live, will take up the value in the existing ledger. It'll post it across to your familiarized ledger on the other side, and it means that all the balances will reconcile in that group of clients. So really, really handy integration tool. The other component I'll just briefly mention here is that our integration into tax is also driven by our working papers tool. So what you'll fundamentally see is that in prior solutions, the ledger typically is where all of your data is driven from. In our system, all the data is driven via the working papers, and that allows us to integrate into items or particular fields in other areas of software, as opposed to just financial statements. So for example, if I was to open up our income tax integration working paper, you'll notice here that the majority of the fields are pre-populated, and that these numbers will automatically pre-fill into the item number for your tax return. Some of the issues we see with Handy Ledger and Handy Tax, and likewise with XVA and APS Tax, is that the integration from the ledger to the tax product is driven by a particular field. What that means is if you forget to integrate or map a particular field through, it won't add up and you won't know that you've missed something. In our solution, every single number will be integrated, and you also have a full reconciliation to provide to your clients, accounting profit versus tax profit or losses. So really, really good tool there. George, anything else in terms of working papers whilst I'm here?
The very last thing I just want to say, every account in the trial balance, every account has a work paper, but also at the very top where the highlight blue is, non-account specific documents. So for a particular client, particular ledger, you can add work papers that aren't specific to an account, and it might be purely saying, this is what I want you to do inside this job. As whoever you are, employee, you might be 3 months into employment with us or 30 years, make sure you check this, this, and this. So it's a set of instructions that ensures that the work's done comprehensively for that particular job. Notwithstanding, within the software as well, there's a facility where you can group different entities that belong to the same group. So you don't need to have a manual note in here that says Smith & Co, Johnson & Johnson are all the same business. That's all linked together with our the way we work in the software.
One final thing in this particular part of the system. So as you go through and you create your working papers, you attach your source documents and you do your journal entries for adjustments, the system will automatically go through and compile electronic working papers for you on the go. So again, every single time you click the mouse, we're looking for time savings. This is part of the process. What it also does is gives you a date time-stamped document that's fully electronic that will remove you from passing paper around the office, and it's a full working paper that's fully bookmarked. So you can see here on my left-hand side, I've got some bookmarks already included. I'll just go through just so you can see my adjusted trial balance. I'll just minus this for you guys. My journal listings that I've taken up as the accountant. These can be pushed back to your MYOB files. If you like, you can push these back into your Client Zero or QuickBooks files via journal entries. I've got all my working papers, and as I scroll down through the page, you can see that I've also got any documents that have been attached as well. So essentially, this system will transform your business, if it hasn't already been through this, from a manual paper-driven tool to a full electronic system that has built-in smarts with working papers and a review process that allows you to share information throughout your office, but also to different offices throughout the group. As I mentioned before, if you had some time or capacity available to share some of those resources throughout the group. Okay, I'm going to close off out of working papers. If there's any questions, just shut up now. Otherwise, we can come back to it at the end. Just want to touch on the reports here because I think this is important just to point out a couple of things. So we've been in the market for about 25 years. We have a fully built out reporting tool that allows you to basically meet all the standards that you need to for your professional standards. Now, our reports are designed to be simple, easy and intuitive to read for your clients. And what this means is that if you wanted to, you can customize things on the go that are relevant for the client's expectations. So if you wanted to take off the notes to financials, because those notes are unnecessary for some clients, or you wanted to include additional depreciation schedules, it's really easy to do here and map through. When I produce the reports, fully PDF'd, and from this screen here, likewise throughout the rest of our software, we can actually set us straight into what we call our client portal. So I'll keep harping on about the same point. This end-to-end fully integrated system allows you to process the work throughout the client journey in your office. It's a component that's built by MYOB, so it means that as I'm ready to share documents with my clients, I'm just going to scroll through so you can see what the standard reports look like. Again, you can customize these if you like. I can simply share this straight to a portal, and my client will receive it via their smartphone, internet-connected device, whatever they choose to use on the run. Now, because we have a fully built-in portal, it also means we can receive digital signatures from your clients. So other systems require the client to squiggly sign their name on a screen. Our system is a little bit different. So we've built in additional steps to ensure the client has actually accepted what they're looking at. But on top of that, we've actually built in a step they have to view the document before they can sign it. So that means from your perspective, you can be safe and secure knowing the client's actually gone through the results, the tax returns and the financial statements, and provided back to you a digital signature that meets the standard of the ATO, ASIC, and the professional bodies. I'll just close the screen now. Do I have any questions around client accounting, or am I okay to move on?
No, looks good, thank you.
No problems at all. Okay, I won't go through our tax returns simply because the forms are what the ATO provide. Everything from the client ledger and working paper tool pre-fills into our tax returns. What I will show you from tax is how we manage lodgements and tracking. So one of the features of Handysoft that's a little bit lacking is the ability to look at and work out what returns are due for a particular year, if they've been lodged, and if they haven't, how far away they are. So like George mentioned before, we've built dashboards and homepages that really form out for your business a visual presentation of how things are tracking. So as you can see here, the majority of my returns are due in the latter part of the year, but I can see from the bar graph the forms that have been lodged and the ones that are yet to be lodged. Again, because this is all the data-driven resources, I can literally double-click anywhere in our windows and I can see at a glance, through the integration directly with the ATO, forms that have been lodged, that need to be lodged, and as a team, a business, or a full company, I can see exactly how we're performing. So these reports are available to you at a glance again, and as I said before, throughout the system, these home pages and dashboards are designed for your business and the roles and responsibilities of your team members. I'll just briefly touch on the pre-filled report because that's important as well. We now have the ability to bring down approximately 70% of the client's forms for individuals through to pre-fill. So what that means is at the tick of a button, we can download all your clients' data and then we can set up a refresh frequency weekly, fortnightly, monthly to bring down any additional information that is then posted later on by those different institutions or different bodies that give your clients their full taxable income. There's not much here I want to talk about on top of tax. Is there anything I've missed, George, that you'd like to just point out?
No, there's lots of little things, but that all adds to the time. So for now, no.
Cool. Okay, no worries. The final thing I just want to touch on here is the way in which your business operates with your clients. So built inside of our system, we have inside of our client area what I refer to as extras, but this is simply your data mining, I guess, component. So all the data inside the system is captured electronically, whether it's from a tax return, i.e. it might be the date ranges for date of birth, or it might be the taxable incomes of particular clients, it might be the area in which they live in. We can then cross-reference that with any additional information inside of our CRM that allow you to push out marketing or different types of formats to your clients to open up those opportunities or different revenue streams. One of the complexities around existing accounting software today is that this data is often missed and it's not cross-pollinated into different areas of the businesses that you might open or have. Inside of our system, we try to provide as much information around your particular clients under one single hub. So what that means is if there are cross-sell opportunities or there's an option for us to help your clients with tax legislation changes or updates to particular software packages they can use, all that information is housed inside of an extra area. On an ad hoc basis, we're also able to capture the client experience, what we call our to-dos. So for example, if I phoned one of your offices today and left a message for a phone call back, typically your offices will send an email to you and you'll return that phone call when you can. What it means though is those emails that are missed and those phone calls that are not returned, your clients have a really poor or bad experience with your particular business. This system of tasks or to-dos, and when I say tasks, I'm referring to Outlook because it gives you some sort of familiarity with how that workflow will come together. This draws together, I guess, the final component of your practice and allows you to have visibility of those optional or ad hoc tasks that need to be completed. So think of it as, I guess, a reminder system that will notify you of things that would otherwise be missed throughout your practice. George, that's got me to 45 minutes. I'd love to spend more time and go through a lot more detail, but I think that gives you a bit of a high-level summary of how our system operates and is brought together. We're happy to stay here longer on the phone line and go into more detail if you'd like to. We're also happy to take any questions now or later on if you choose. But from, I guess, say a high-level presentation and just an introduction to what is quite a fully built out and established accounting solution, I'll pause here now for any questions that we might have from the Gold Coast in the room, or even with David or...
David, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just a quick question for me. We use APS, all integrated. What are the major differences between your suite and their suite, please?
You go.
Sure.
Give me a chance to think.
Okay. So David, Steve, look, I think the most important thing here is what underpins the workflow through APS and how the data is presented through those home pages inside of our system. I understand that APS is quite an intelligent reporting system for the practice management. We offer the exact same complexity, so you'll have that same feature-rich, report-driven data available to you through graphical interfaces. The key difference, though, is that the workflows built inside our system aren't available inside of APS. So what I'm referring to, just to give you a bit more context, the way in which the data is brought into our system from your clients is different. We have full mapping plus synchronization from our client tools. The working papers are owned by MYOB, and therefore any updates that come out will be reflected in all updates to our clients. It also means that we have one single source of truth and that all your team members will use the same workflow from the accounting process, no matter what your client chooses to use. And the final component is the job flow itself. So a job flow manager, whilst it doesn't do full capacity planning, gives your practice the ability to forecast cash flow coming into your business that I know that Reckon APS doesn't quite have, or in the same simplistic way that MYOB can provide. The final thing, David, is the end-to-end workflow. So like I mentioned before, our practice solutions are agnostic to what your clients choose to use. A lot of providers still want you to have a master chart of accounts that is relevant to their ledger. The days of a master chart for accounting practices are starting to slowly disappear. So we're interested in making sure that what you use integrates seamlessly with your client users, and that means we can produce the reports, the working papers, the tax return, in a lot more of a quicker fashion than any other provider in the marketplace.
There are a few APS. Do you use alerts at the moment with APS?
I actually don't know because I don't use I don't use a lot.
Okay. So what they use for alerts, we also have exactly the same piece of software that we can use for alerts, but it's not ours, and it's not APS's either. It's a third-party package. Now, what an alert is instead of having those home pages where you can see the data live, it removes the need for you to even look. Instead of looking at your aged work in progress to identify something's gone to 120 days, why haven't we billed it? You just put an alert in there that says, when one of my clients, any of my clients go to 120 days, let me know. So it tells you when debtors blow out or to a certain age. It tells you when the age whip is whatever. It tells you when you're halfway through the work, but you're 3/4 of the way through the budget. Now, we have all the reporting capability that shows you that, but there are alerts that you can add in. And if that's something that turns you on, then we can add alerts on as well. One big thing that stands out is when APS launched, they launched in SQL Server, and they're still on SQL Server. When you make a decision to go with a particular provider, have they shown that they have the revenue and the ability to deliver software for more than just one technology? And APS has been on that same technology for a long time. We have already gone from DOS to Windows to SQL Server, and we have our assets on full cloud now. We have our client portal on cloud. Our new corporate compliance is on cloud. What else is on cloud?
Dashboards for all your clients.
So we have a number of our products on cloud, and our existing practices will get the next versions of our software as they come out. We'll eventually have the full suite available on cloud. So it's important to pick someone that's not just going to get stuck. And as you know, APS and us, we were going to merge, and their CEO said to ASIC publicly that we need them because we're going to leverage off their development and being able to go to that particular technology. So that differentiates us from a lot of the people in the marketplace. Xero currently is on straight into cloud. That's their first platform of development. They've yet to be tested, like MYOB have been tested. And it's been difficult, we're not perfect, but we've been tested in migrating clients. They've yet to be tested in moving to the next platform. Handy has been in the marketplace and has moved. Just recently getting stuck in that non-cloud environment, but that's something that's different. We're tested, we do get to the new platforms, and we can deliver on that new technology. We have the revenue model that means we make a profit, unlike some of our competitors currently in that space.
Sorry, can I ask one more question? Sorry, because
Sure.
I have questions as well. That's good. That's great. If one was to change, do you have to rekey in much data, or can it come across?
We can bring across, a lot of it comes across. So we will migrate all your documents as long as it's stored in a logical structure. We brought documents across from APS and Handy. As long as you use the same logic in your folders, we can bring all of it across into document management. We'll bring across the front covers and the taxation, all the prior years. We don't bring prior year tax across, but there is a recommendation on what to do. You can output those particular bits of data into a PDF. So you've got prior year returns in a PDF, and you put them into our document management. Or you keep 1 or 2 licenses open as well for the following 12 months, which enables you to actually access that information and print it as time goes on. With regards to practice management, all your client information, names, addresses, all those different variables like dates of birth and special marketing features, we bring all of that across. We bring across the opening balances for work in progress and debtors, or sorry, the closing balances for the WIP and debtors. We don't bring across a detailed WIP that exists, but we do highly recommend, I would recommend you print out the current work in progress going for any client back to the very first time you had them, 1985 if that's when you got them. Print out a detailed WIP report so you've got that history, print it as a PDF and attach it into the client area for that client. So what else haven't I covered that we bring across? I think that's basically it for conversion.
That's okay. Didn't want to think that we have to be re-inputting any of that sort of dreadful
That
stuff.
sort of no. Trial balances though, we don't bring across the trial balance for general ledger, do we?
For handy we can.
We can for handy. Okay,
We'll give you a tool for that.
Okay.
We'll migrate those.
So we can bring some of that, not all of that.
Yeah.
George, can you just clarify with the documents what you bring across?
Every single document, whether it's Word, PDF, Excel, anything you've got in a structure. So if you've got, say, the structure is the year as a folder with a year, and then within the year you might have different folders for the type of work. If you've done that same logic for all of your clients, it's a quick script. We can bring everything across into exactly that structure, automatically appearing then within our document management.
Okay.
Historically back as far as just as long as it's logical. If it's not logical, then we can manually bring it over. It's a manual process because it suddenly doesn't make sense. In one client you've got a year, and the other client you've got no years, and it's just a big random bucket.
Yep.
And those documents that exist, by the way, it doesn't matter whether it's Excel, a PDF or whatever, those documents can then be attached within our work papers, and they can be the supporting documentation. And then they roll forward in that work paper forever.
And you're still running the same sort of process with document approval, completions, and reverting to draft, that sort of thing within the
Yes.
process? Yep.
So you can keep that. So within document management, you can make it as low security or as high security as you wish. And it's a part of we have workshops at the beginning before we start anything out, and it's to determine your processes. The best practice is when you're sending out an email, you should profile the email. You can make it an optional profiling. We recommend make it compulsory. So you're about to send out an email and it says who's the client that it's going to, what's the type of work, and it gets assigned that way. And so every bit of correspondence that leaves this office, because it's integrated, whether it leaves this office through Outlook, for example, then it's stored in document management. So every single email outbound is captured. You can loosen that up, but it's not then best practice. You don't know what's gone out or received.
And that works with Office 365?
Steve?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
So just to clarify, the program at the moment is still for want of a better word, a server base. So it's stored on our server.
Yes and no. So if I can just explain, all technologies are currently servers. If it's a server in-house, the software's in the server. It can be hosted, so it's still on the server, but it's in your IT. It's in an IT business elsewhere. So that's a hosted or a remote type technology is the term. Still a server. Or if it's in the cloud, it's still on a file server, but the file server's owned and managed by the software company. So in all circumstances, all the software's on the server. With our current suite offering, we have the majority, a large number of our practices have a hosted environment where they use a third party, an IT company they've outsourced to, and they've put all our software on that server. The demonstration we did today isn't on this laptop. We needed an internet connection. It's on servers in Melbourne. So our current suite works in remote/hosted environment, except for 3 or 4 of our products. They are cloud, which is a server in our premises. So assets is cloud. So if you wanted to have it locally, you can't. Assets, it's cloud. I don't think you've got an option to have it locally as well, do you?
It's cloud.
It's cloud. The client portal is cloud. The corporate compliance is cloud. But everything else, our clients choose to either have it in-house or have it hosted by someone else. And when they go to the applications, the demonstration, when you go through the applications, you're not aware when it's going to a cloud or when it's going to your local server, it looks the same. And that's the way. Sorry.
I was going to say, is it a long-term aim is to go all cloud, or?
Yes. Well, long-term, short-term. We've been rolling out the cloud over the last 1.5 to 2 years. Unfortunately, well, it's not unfortunate. It's a part of the deal with all our existing customers. If you've been paying maintenance, you'll get all these versions for free, and they just keep paying their ongoing monthly charge, and they get the cloud version. Unlike competitors who just release the suite fully on cloud, we have to go slowly, so that, because what we've built in to the new versions, which happen to be cloud, additional features to make it better. There are a couple there's a couple of good things that I can't remember that are in assets. I saw it in the last demo. So it's not just that we're changing it with better functionality. So yes, and we've got dates that we've published. Practice management, I think the dates are by the end of next year, but it's software. Corporate compliance wasn't meant to be out for another 7 or 8 months. It's out now. Sometimes that software comes early, sometimes it comes later. It just depends on beta testing and how that goes. In the end, being cloud doesn't make it better. Being on a cloud or being on a remote server gives us all the accessibility, all the functions that you need. We just need to get there in a sensible way that's sustainable for all clients, in a migratable way where people aren't going, oh, this is totally different, I don't know how to use it. We've been quite clever with it. We could open up one of the cloud applications now, and it has a similar look and feel, but you can see a difference. But within 2 years, I would expect, with my experience, I add a year to every date I hear. It doesn't make a difference to our practices. Some it does, I don't know why, but as long as the flow is right for them and they're getting efficiencies, the current software on a remote server matters. So that you're looking at a cloud. Which one's that, Steve?
So this is essentially the practice software being built out online. So what you'll see is that we've got all of our client database in the cloud. If you want to use this in conjunction with the server-based product, you can. You can click into the client, get their details, and they go, see their addresses, create a portal, add a portal, etc. All of your clients' files, some of you may have seen this before, are located in one single dashboard as well, so you can get basically a view holistically of how your client's going, uncoded transactions, coded transactions, percentage automated when they downloaded the last, what types of features they've turned on. Our portal is located in the cloud, obviously, because that's where it's shared with clients. So they can do digital signatures. You get a dashboard that shows you what's happening, who's done what. If people haven't signed or there's multiple signatures, you can see in one single screen. All those documents are housed in the cloud as well. You've got some compliance tools in the cloud. So we have FBT and BAS available today. So if your clients are using Essentials or AccountRight, it will pre-fill the BAS for you right here, and you can lodge it straight through to the ATO once you collect a digital signature. And additionally, because we're an all-encompassing product, whilst we're focused on compliance and practice management, we also have an advisory section of our business. So this gives you basically dashboard reporting or management reporting for all of your clients that use an Essentials or an AccountRight file. So it'll put together what I call basically an informative tool or resource that your team members can use in conversations that take what are accountant terminology and put it into layman terms. So when your clients or your team members speak with each other, they can say that a reduction in debtor days will equal X% increase in cash flow over this particular period. So whilst we're building out this cloud product, like George said, it's important to reiterate, we're not just doing a ledger in the cloud like some of our competitors have done, or putting a tax form in the cloud. The idea here is to reshape what the workflows could be. So that means you draw more efficiency from the products, but it also gives your practice a roadmap of, let's use the best of now, increase our capacity, increase the bottom line, but at the same time, partner with somebody who can actually provide us real long-term value, not just like for likes, but actually looking at what the accounting space will look like going forward and how business will operate with your customers.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's good.
I mean, look, I'm a hard marker with MYOB internally. I mean, our service has been, in some cases, great, and many cases rubbish in the past. We've had to rechange a lot of things to make that better. And I've spent many years with MYOB. I've come and gone a couple of times, but that part we're getting right now, and has been right for a few years. The one part that we've done really well, and we really do poorly at telling the world about it, is we've been there as a sustainable partner, and we keep developing product. We make a profit and we put that money back in. And we had enough money in the coffers to be able to help out APS should we have merged with them before we got skittled. ACCC didn't approve it. And it's unfortunate. Handy was a player like that too. They've recently outsourced their practice management to a third party. I think they're integrating with Salesforce now. That's a worrying sign because practice management is easy to write. It's a compliance suite. It's accounting and taxation that's quite difficult. And there's been signs in the marketplace from what were good suppliers where they can't release a good tax product now. We get that right, and we put the money aside responsibly so that, you know, our existing customers won't have to jump in 3 years' time to someone else and the cost of change. Change isn't easy. Like, it's not an easy thing to do. And it done the right way, the stress is minimized, but it will make you money in the end if you change to a supplier that has a much more profitable suite. And we do it in a particular way that I think is unique. We do full workflows beforehand to know the starting point. We spend days doing these workflows, months in advance of doing any training. And we make the decisions for what you will use and how will you use our software. We make those decisions separate from training days. If you think back to any change you've made, you're sitting there going through the training, and while you're looking at how it's done now during training, in the back of your mind, you're doing a process review and thinking, oh, this will change this and this. And the employees are doing that simultaneously. They're trying to absorb, but they're trying to process. We separate it. We do all the processing discussions ahead of time. You can show us on a screen, this is how we currently do things. We'll show you on a screen. No one's got a keyboard. There are a dozen people around the table. This is how you can do things. And we make a decision, right, that's what we're going to do going forward. We'll do things that way. And then when you're in training, you get training specific to that decision. We don't show you 5 different ways to write off and to report on the write-offs. We show you the areas that you wanted to know about. There are 5 different ways to do fees. We make the training more potent. And that makes it easier when you're making a change. We do that well now.
Okay.
David, James, any more questions? Nijo or Chris?
No, thank you.
No, bro, thank you.
James?
No, I'm fine. Thanks. That's good.
David?
Sorry, I flicked around. I'm fine. No, don't know my question. Thank you very much indeed. That's very good. Very interesting.
Okay. Thank you, accounting directors and team around the country. Thanks, Steve and George, for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for the time.
Presenting for MYOB, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week on Thursday.
Great.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Just tell Stephen one thing before you go, Stephen, that you can knock off now. It's 5 o'clock in Sydney.
Yeah, thank you very much, David.
Okay, cheers, Matty.
Yeah,
thanks for making the
absolutely.
trip.
Bye.
Thanks very much for the presentation, guys.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.